Hello guys, as you can see the title of today's lesson is How Buddhists Worship. The must objective is to understand the different ways Buddhists worship. We will be focusing on chants, mantras and shrines in today's lesson. We're going to say why Buddhists do these things, and also that links into why it's important to them. So what do they do? Why do they do this? How is that therefore important? The could objective, so this is, if you can do this, this is absolutely brilliant. We're going to be able to compare different parts of the shrine and say which part you think is the most important, because the parts of the shrine have symbolic meanings, they all mean something. So that comes towards the end of the lesson. I'm going to be talking you through, like I've said previously, because this topic is quite difficult. If you still don't understand something, please email me and ask me a question. It's not a problem if I have to go over something again and again. As long as you understand it, that is the main thing. Okay guys, so let's crack on with the lesson. So from this slide you can see the yellow box, which is the questions you need to answer. I've drawn little arrows to the box that says the purpose of worship. Underneath that is the key terms. The purpose of worship and the key terms are from your AQA GCSE textbook, guys, so this is what the exam board is saying you need to know. So the questions I want you to look at are, what does worship, puja, allow Buddhists to do? So the key thing you need to get from there is, by worshipping, it allows them to focus on the Buddha's teachings. It gives them the opportunity to learn more about what he said, and then from that they reflect and think, how can that fit my life? Okay, so the key thing for number one, though, to be honest, the main simple point is it allows them to understand the religion. What did the Buddha said? What did he mean by that? The second question is, what do they achieve through doing it? So that I kind of linked onto that little bit with what I've just said. So what they achieve is that by understanding the religion, what the Buddha said, they can therefore reflect on it and think, how can I make that work in my life to make my life better? So if the Buddha taught, for example, about compassion, how to be nice and kind to other people, and saying that's really important, when they're worshipping on that, when they're focusing and meditating on those teachings, they'll think, well, what can I do to be compassionate? Why is compassion important? So that's the bit at the bottom where it says, through dwelling on these teachings, they absorb them more deeply and they find their life changing for the better. So they reflect on them and think, how can I do that in my life? Okay, so that's the kind of things you need to get from this slide, guys. From this one, again, kind of the same setup. You can see the questions in the parts where you can find the answers in the textbook. So there's 5 ways that Buddhists can worship. These are basically the main activities that your exam board want you to know. So meditation, offerings, chantings, mantras and bowing. We're looking at this lesson today, chanting mantras. Sorry, I should say chanting and mantras, and also shrines later on, which is links into that idea of meditation and offerings. So the 5 things you need to know are basically that list there, okay, to answer that question. The second one, why was chanting originally used and what was chanted, in question number 3. So literally chanting was made to help people remember things because they couldn't write things down. So it just helped them to remember what the Buddha said or what important monks and nuns said. What is chanted is literally the Buddha's teachings. So there's some examples there at the bottom, which is the 3 refuges, the 5 moral precepts and the Bodhisattva vows. So they're key parts of the Buddhist belief that we would have studied quite a while ago. So they're kind of things that they'll go into. So the 3 refuges are the Buddha, his teachings and the community. The 5 moral precepts are the rules they must follow. So things like don't harm, all those ones there. And you've got the Bodhisattva vows, the things they say when they want to join the religion. So they might say these things while they're chanting over and over again to help them focus. So this links on to question 4, like I've just said. Why do they chant? To help them focus, to calm their mind, to help them pick apart what the message of the Buddha's teachings were. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go over that very, very quickly. 5 things that Buddhists do in worship is they meditate, make offerings, chant, mantras and bowing. Why was it originally used? What is chanted? To help them remember the Buddha's teachings were chanted. And why do they chant? To help them concentrate, calm themselves and to learn more detail about the faith. Okay guys, so what is a mantra then? A mantra is a sacred saying that's said over and over and over again. very similar, which is moving on to question number 2, it's quite similar to a chant. However, they believe it can actually do something a lot more to you and help you to understand and transform yourself in your journey to enlightenment. So in that middle paragraph, it will say, you might not understand some of it, where it says that mantras can often call on spiritual qualities of a Buddha or Bodhisattva. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are both enlightened people. They've achieved enlightenment, which they believe is where you've achieved a state of complete and utter peace. A Bodhisattva is someone who decides to come back once they die, to come and help and teach other people. Some people believe that when you die, if you've achieved enlightenment, you just go on to nirvana, which is a state of peace, kind of like heaven. But a Bodhisattva chooses not to go there, to come back and help people. How does that link to a mantra? A mantra, they believe, if you say it over and over again, for example, Om Mani Padme Hum, which is in the text you can see, they believe that's a sacred mantra that can sometimes invoke the presence of a Bodhisattva to help you, to help guide you. So they believe it can get a Bodhisattva to be near you, to help you, to focus on the Buddha's teachings, to gain some wisdom, to help you along your path to enlightenment. So the next question then is, what is a mala? That is basically similar to a rosary bead, if you know anything about that within Christianity. We haven't covered that topic yet, so I will talk about that later on when the time is right for that. It's basically a string of beads with 108 beads on there, and they'll run the beads through their fingers as they're saying the mantra. So when they've said the mantra once, so if they say Om Mani Padme Hum, they'll hold on to the bead, then they'll move on to the next bead and say it again. They'll move on to the next bead and say it again. So they should say that mantra 108 times if they're following it properly. So that's all about mantras there, guys. Okay guys, what you need to do on this bit is there is a worksheet attached to this lesson. Either fill out the worksheet if you can print it off. If you can't print it off, do not worry, just write the questions out in a book or on a piece of paper. What I would do is play the video and pause it and answer the questions as you go along, so it keeps you focusing on the key things that you need to pick out from that video. The next part of the sheet is a match-up activity. This is basically based on the knowledge you've gained from the video, so have a go at this, matching them up. The answers will be given later on, so don't cheat, have a go. If you're stuck on any of them, that shows you guys what you need to go over and revise in a bit more detail. This is a gap-fill activity based on what you found out from monasteries. Again, like it says at the top of the slide, answers will be given later on. Like I've said previously as well, try not to go to that and have a little sneaky look. So do the best you possibly can. Maybe if you were struggling, write in your green pens if you still have them somewhere in your pencil cases, the ones you were struggling on, just to show you guys what you need to revise later on. But have a good go at that. At this point in the lesson, we've looked at chanting and mantras. We've also had a look around a Buddhist temple as well, and the shrine rooms, and some Buddhists have explained to you what they are and what they do and how they use them. So we're going to now focus in more detail on the shrine, because that's a really, really important part of this module and this topic. You need to understand what those parts mean in more detail. So we're going to move on to that in a moment. So the instructions say, this is a little bit of fun. I want you to draw your own picture of a Buddhist shrine. So have a look at some Google images, have a good bit of research, or use the ones I've put on this slide. You're going to draw it, and around your drawing I want you to draw little lines off of the main parts of your shrine, and you're going to explain what it is, which is dead simple. So you could just write, this is a candle. And then you're going to explain what that symbolises, because that candle has got loads and loads of meanings to it. So you need to explain those around your picture of your shrine. So I've got an example on the next slide, so I'll just show you that, guys. Okay, so I want you to imagine that I've drawn this picture here, which would never happen because I'm awful at drawing. But imagine I've drawn that, and I've drawn a little arrow, the blue one, off from the flowers, and this is what I would have written down on my work. So in my picture I have included flowers, because this symbolises that nothing lasts forever, as flowers will eventually die and wither away. I've read that a bit wrong. This teaches Buddhists about impermanence, which is the key focus of religion. So I've basically said there what it is, it's a flower, what it means, and explained a bit about that. So I've given you one for free there, guys. Flowers, they put flowers on the shrine because, well, one of the reasons is that flowers eventually die, wither away, and that shows that the key important part of Buddhism is realizing that nothing lasts forever. Because if you can realize that, you can start to let go of attachments and let go of suffering. So that's a really important part. So what you're going to do is around the other parts you draw in, just like I've draw little arrows off and explain what each part means. The information for that you're going to need is on the next slides. Okay, so don't worry about that. I'll explain later in the next slide for you guys. Okay guys, so you're now up to the information slide. So from this slide for the next few is going to contain all the information about the symbols behind each of the parts on the shrine. So this is for the Buddha statue. So what you need to do is on your drawing, draw a line coming off of the Buddha statue and then pick out some key information from this slide. So it explains why there is a Buddha statue on a shrine. Okay, same again for the lights. So there's always, like I said before, there's a candle. There's always lights or something on a shrine, and you're going to read this and pick out which part you think is the main symbol. They all are symbols of the candle, but which one do you think is the main one? And draw this off of your candle which is on your shrine. Now, I'm not going to say anything now until the next few slides. We're going to let it run through, so you should have understood now that you're basically annotating around your picture, explaining what these symbols mean. So you should now have drawn your picture and annotated around it, explaining what the symbols are that are on the shrine. So the incense symbolize the idea that nothing lasts forever because they burn down. The offerings are a sign of respect. The light is the light of the Buddha, and again, nothing lasts forever, and so on. So you should have explained that all around. You should be confident now of what a shrine is and what it symbolizes. Now what I want you to do, like the question says, which part of the Buddhist shrine do you think is most important? So which part of those would you never take away? Which part do you think should always be on a shrine? And explain why you think that. Try and explain why it's important, linking it to its symbols as well, its deeper meaning. Then I want you to think about what part of the shrine do you think has the best symbolic meaning, which is the best symbol, and do you think maybe connects to what it is the most? You can probably tie those two paragraphs in together into one paragraph if you like, if that works best for you, but as long as you're focusing on that content, that'll be absolutely fine. That's the end of the lesson. You should, at this point, be able to explain the different ways Buddhists worship. So we've looked mainly at chanting, mantras and shrines. You should be able to not just explain what they are, but why they're important. You should be getting a bit more confident with that. And you should be able to look at the symbolic meaning of shrines, so what each part means. So you're not just going to say that that's a candle. You will know a candle symbolises something, it has a deeper meaning. In the next lesson, we're going to look in more detail about why worship is so important to Buddhists, why they focus so much on their worship. So well done for getting to this point in the lesson. If you do have any questions, like I've said, email me. If you're confident, keep your work nice and safe, put it away somewhere, and we're going to move on to the next one in a little bit. Well done, guys.